everybody, my name is Megan. I am a Los Angeles-based actor and party princess performer, and this is how to do a Snow White voice. I'm really excited. This is my very first video on this new princess channel that I'm starting. I have a lot of ideas as far as the types of videos that I can do, but a how-to guide on a princess voice seemed like the perfect place to start because there's a lot, it's the bread and butter of being a party princess, being able to authentically portray the characters, and a huge part of that is getting their voice. Because what I found from doing birthday parties is that the things I use to create Snow White's voice, I use elements of to make every other princess voice that I do with all the other characters that I play. So it seems like a really good voice to sort of introduce these concepts with, and then if you wanted me to break off and do another character's voice, let me know. But I think this is a good sort of overview of all the different aspects of making a character's voice.
So Snow White's voice is very high-pitched, and there's a lot of things that go into Snow White's voice. The 5 things I'm going to talk about today are breath support, resonance, pitch, inflection, and dialect. Those are 5 things that really are universal in all voices, but are very, very specific of Snow White's voice.
Okay, so breath support. Like I said earlier, number 1, it is so important. Without breath support, you're not properly activating your breath and properly supporting your voice. And so especially with a voice like Snow White, which is so high and does put a lot of tension and strain on your throat, without supporting that, you are going to lose your voice 100%. So the things that I'm just gonna really quickly go over, and there's a lot more that goes into these, so if you are interested in a more detailed analysis, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, hopefully this is helpful for you. In a nutshell, you want to make sure that when you breathe, your stomach is the thing that is engaging. So your stomach should be the thing that's going out when you take a breath, not your chest, not your shoulders. So I'm going to show you a more typical breath that I know I do in my everyday life. This is kind of how we breathe in our everyday. My chest was the thing that rose, right? My chest and my shoulders were engaged. My stomach actually went in. It didn't really do anything. When you want to do proper activated supported breath, your chest and your shoulders need to stay in place. They don't move at all. You want to breathe from your diaphragm. The way that you do that is making sure that your stomach is the thing that engages. So put your hand on your stomach right here and just take a breath. Now put your hand on your chest just to make sure your chest doesn't move. Awesome. Another way to check and make sure that your stomach is the thing that's moving, put your hands on your ribs like this. And when you breathe, you should feel like your ribs are doing a cool, like accordion style Lady and the Tramp type motion. So put your hands on your ribs like this and take a breath. Now if you could see my ribs, let me see if I can make my shirt a little bit tighter. Awesome, so my ribs did that accordion motion, and my stomach was the thing that went out. I had almost like a little pregnant belly. That's how I know my breath is fully in my diaphragm. It's as low as it can possibly go, and it's ready to be supported. So the second half of breath support, and like I said, this is a super quick overview, is making sure that you are engaging the proper muscles. So there's a few muscles that go into breath support. There's the transverse abdominis muscle, there's the oblique muscles, there's basically everything in this stomach and pelvic region can be activated in some way and shouldn't be activated in some way to make sure that your breath is supported. All we're going to worry about today is the transverse abdominis or skinny jean transverse muscle. I want everyone to put their hand right here, right where you imagine you would suck in if you're trying to put on a really tight pair of jeans. Put your hands right here. And what you do to make sure that you're engaging this and supporting your breath is to just engage that muscle. So I'm going to turn to the side. I'm going to breathe. My stomach went out, my chest stayed in place, and now when I talk, I'm going to engage that muscle, and you can already hear a difference in my voice. So right now it's supported, but it's not going anywhere. There's nothing really happening with the sound. But when I do this, and I breathe, and I activate the transverse abdominis muscle, there's just more life to the voice. So that in a nutshell is how I make sure that my breath is supported and my voice can carry across a room full of screaming children. Step number 2 is resonance. So resonance is, like I said, where you imagine the sound is coming from. There's about 4 main points of resonance for any voice. There's head resonance, nasal resonance, chest resonance, and hip or gut resonance. Snow White, surprise, surprise, speaks from head resonance. It is as if the sound of Snow White's voice is shooting straight out of the top of her head. It doesn't go past her eyebrows. It's so airy. So think Mickey Mouse, think Minnie Mouse, think the highest you can go and then go 3 steps higher. That's Snow White.
Head resonance is up like this. It's as if everything is talking up at the top of my head, and it doesn't go past here, and everything's just really, 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 really high. That's head resonance.
So the way I warm up resonance is I hum, basically. I cover my mouth like this, and I just hum. You will start to feel a tickle in your mouth, but what closing off your nose essentially does, when you do this, the breath gets trapped in your hands, and the vibration from humming shoots up. It goes straight up so that my head essentially wakes up, and I can feel my resonators start to wake up. So I do this. And you want to make sure you're playing with pitch, which goes into step 3, which I'll talk about in a minute. You want to sort of do sirens or something to make sure you're hitting all spectrums of the volume of your voice and the pitch of your voice. If this doesn't do it for you, if this doesn't work, I highly recommend cupping your mouth like this and putting it up against a wall like this. Woo! That essentially will do the same thing and actually can sometimes work faster and have a bigger effect, especially for like head or nasal resonance. So that's how I warm up resonance. Number 3, pitch. So pitch is essentially like the sandbox of sound that you're allowed to play in. For Snow White, it's high. It's high. It's very similar to head resonance as far as like where you imagine the sound can go. So just to kind of give you an idea of like what pitch is, this is a high pitch, this is a mid pitch, this is a low pitch, right? So Snow White stays really, really, really high. However, it is really, really obnoxious if Snow White was to sound like this the whole time with no changes. Everything is high, everything is one sound, everything is very monotone, because it's not just pitch, right? Pitch is just the bass, and then there's nuances, there's inflection and dialect, and those are sort of truly the bread and butter of Snow White's voice, because without those, you just have an obnoxious sound that makes my dog go crazy. Inflection is the nuance within pitch and the variation of sound. So think about Shakespeare, iambic pentameter, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That's inflection. Da 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 da. It's making sure that not everything sounds exactly the same, and that's all you have to do. For the most part, for Snow White, you can speak as you normally would. The one thing I would recommend though is end 99% of your sentences as if you're asking a question, because what Snow White does
Is when Snow White talks, everything goes up. Everything goes up at the end of the sentence. It's Snow White.
and that's 99% of the time what she does. For fun, every once in a while, I will end on a downward inflection, just so that everything is the same. But when in doubt, raise the end of a sentence for Snow White.
Hello, sir. May I please have a caramel frappuccino? Happy birthday, princess. I think I'll give Grumpy the last slice of apple pie.
Last one, number 5, is dialect. So dialect is the way that people speak. So when you think about English as a language all around America, different regions have different dialects. There's a California dialect, which is what I have. There's a Southern dialect, a rhotic Southern dialect where they pronounce the R's. And then there's a non-rhotic Southern dialect where they don't pronounce the R's. And then there's New York. A bunch of different dialects, you guys. The thing with Snow White is that she doesn't really have a regional dialect per se. She does have a sort of timely dialect, more of a standard American 1930s dialect. She also has she has her own little dialect. I don't really know how to describe it other than everything is really tight and really, really forward. Imagine that the sound's not allowed to go past like your canine teeth. It has to stay in this front. So there's one vowel that varies in Snow White that I want to talk about, and that is the vowel in Happy Birthday. Just because I say it so often at birthday parties, I think it's important. When I say happy birthday, I say a. I'd use a diphthong. A, happy birthday. When Snow White says it, the diphthong part, it almost goes away. It sort of sounds, it's a very short diphthong. She says, happy birthday. So it's eh. There's a little bit of the E sound at the end, but it's not nearly as elongated or as fully realized as the way that I say it when I say birthday. Birthday, birthday. Can you hear the difference? It's like a little bit different. The way you can know if you're doing it right is the two-finger test. This is something that I learned for various dialects to make sure that your oral posture and how wide your mouth is opening is appropriate for the accent or dialect that you're trying to do. So for Snow White, or for me, when I say happy birthday, I can fit two fingers. When I am Snow White, I say happy birthday, and I can only fit one finger. Another example of that is her name, Snow White. When I say it, it's Snow White. Two fingers. When she says it, Snow White. One finger, barely. So yeah, that's kind of an example of Snow White. The vowels are similar, they're just shortened. They're shortened vowels. So just try the two-finger test, play with it a little bit, and eventually you will find the voice. So that's the voice. And so just to sort of deconstruct the voice and show you that these things can be done in isolation and also show you what the different things add to the voice so you can kind of see why I do them all. Breath support is always there. Always make sure you're breathing properly. But starting with resonance, shoot out of the top of your head as if you're going high into head voice. Everything is Minnie Mouse, high resonance. Then add pitch, and for Snow White, you're gonna go even higher than you normally would for head resonance. It's very, very high, stay very, very high. This is a very high pitch, and then add inflection. So all of a sudden there's things, and there's cadence, and there's different things happening with the pitch. And then add the dialect. And once you add the dialect, you have the Snow White voice, because without the dialect, it's just a bunch of really fun sounds, but it doesn't actually sound like Snow White. And the really fun thing about the voice is that you sort of have to do the hand motions with Snow White. It sort of just comes naturally. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. Goodbye! Oh.